Basically, I added a little bit of magic, if you will. If you've worked with web forms or web services, you may know that when you want to actually declare like an action that you want exposed, you use like a web method above your class, and that exposes it. Those are attribute classes, and you can actually write your own ones of those, and then you can use reflection to actually find out what those attributes are, which is quite handy. So what I did is I created a custom attribute, which is called XSLT extension attribute. So you basically add this little tag to your class. What this does is looks for that tag and goes, right, can I see this tag on those classes that are in the app code? If I can see that tag, then I know that I should be adding this as an XSLT extension from Umbraco to be able to use inside macros. The other bit is that this attribute also allows you to declare your own namespace inside XSLT, and we'll go through an example of that with actually Doug Robar's XSLT search, because that was the first module that I refactored as part of this, and I walked Doug through doing it. Doug knows nothing about .NET. And what were the words you said?
Anybody could do.
Exactly. So it's very, very simple. It's very straightforward. You don't have to know anything about .NET at all to be able to make it work, to make your script blocks work with medium trust. So, and a couple of exception handlers. File not found exception, basically, yeah, I can't find anything in the app code. And catch general exception, i.e. it couldn't load it for any other reason. So that's all the code, and it saves you a small lifetime of XSLT sins and debugging and attaching to worker processes on IIS and remote boxes and finding out why your script actually isn't working. Because you can use the Visual Studio remote debuggers instead to debug what is normal .NET code. So, and most of you think that reflection won't work in medium trust. There are only certain methods that won't work in medium trust. And one of them is reflection.emit. Now this potentially causes a small problem for us with Link, because Link uses reflection.emit to actually generate some of the stuff to be able to do Link data binding, so that's something I've still yet to actually get around to doing. But things have been a little busy lately. So I believe there are some workarounds. Microsoft have kind of got some stuff on MSDN about how to actually add link support in shared hosting. Most of it is normally you have to ask your hosting provider very nicely. So kind of get on your knees and beg. So only certain methods don't work in medium trust. If you're loading what are medium trust safe libraries, those will load safely in medium trust. You won't need any special security permissions to actually overcome that. So, because I mean, IIS does that, the ASP.NET handlers do that at runtime anyway with your website. It should be no different with any extra code that's in there at all. So, and also safe assemblies. Some of you may have written code which uses unsafe handlers, especially when you're doing stuff that's using memory pointers. You're doing some very shiny advanced .NET, mostly image manipulation stuff. You can write unsafe methods which could potentially destroy the memory inside your computer. It's never a good idea. And when you actually compile those, they get compiled with a special switch that says, right, this whole assembly, just because it's got one or two methods that use unsafe methods, the whole assembly as a result is unsafe. So that's what that means when it says, is the assembly safe? Basically trying not to screw with the memory at all when you're doing .NET. Accessing, especially pointers in memory, there are some wrappers that you can use. I think they're in a class called marshalling that you can actually use, which provides safe methods for accessing pointers in memory if you need to do some advanced stuff with doing image manipulation and various other things. So now let's get onto an example. So to be able to expose your methods inside your app code to XSLT, if you look at any compiled library, because when you add certain modules, say for example you add log for Umbraco to a site, you'll get a couple of DLLs placed in there, and they will normally add a line into the XSLT extensions.config inside Umbraco, and Umbraco will read through that at runtime and go, right, I need to load this and this and this, and use those namespaces and those methods as little helpers inside your macros. Now, I did some reflection on those and found out spotted a pattern that basically every single method is what's called a public static method. So anyone here not aware what a static method is? No? Good. So all your methods have got to be static. Your class has got to be public. It doesn't have to be a static class. It has to be a public class, though, for it to be able to be read by reflection. You then add the XSLT extension attribute. That's our little marker that the code in the previous slide shows. So the code basically looks out for that and goes, right, that's an XSLT extension. I should add that in. Nice and simple. If you don't want it exposed, you don't add it. Very, very simple. And something that Lee Callagher very, very generously donated, I did warn you, you get a call out, is Lee has been working on an app code editor to be able to edit files in the app code. And I'm currently in the process of reworking this. And it was agreed that to be able to edit those inside the Umbraco interface, we need to be able to write .NET code, but then have what is effectively a one-click. Kind of go, right, this is my class. I just need to go, right, click here, bang. I can expose that to XSLT. Simple as that. And as this man would say, oh, actually, no, not yet. This is an example. This is very, very simple example. Doug Robar's XSLT search. This is basically a copy of everything that's in Doug's MS-XML script block. The only difference is all the methods are public static. You have a public class, and you have a public constructor that has no arguments at all. And it does nothing. It doesn't have to. It just needs to be there as a placeholder so that when you add it as an extension, the Umbraco core can actually say, right, I need to create an instance of that. And then a namespace. And the little brackets that's actually a custom namespace. That actually gets fed through to your XSLT. So when you go to edit your macros, when you go into insert value of, and then you go to insert the helper methods, this will come up as a library, and then it will actually show all the methods in the drop down as well. So really nice, almost like IntelliSense. Not quite as fast or responsive, but still, the fact that you can write these and have them exposed so that other developers can access them as necessary is pretty handy. As that man would say, done. Very simple. As he said, anyone can do it. So, examples. So far, the only real public module that I've actually come across that's got it is yours, unfortunately. The blog for Umbraco was going to make its way onto there, but I actually looked through it and there's no script blocks at all. So, which saved me some time. That's kind of good. So that was the only one I could really find. And the last bit, faster. Oh, actually, not quite the last bit. The second bit. New app code editor coming soon. Lee has kindly donated the app code editor to me, for me to work on. After I did all the previous 50 lines, he kind of figured, well, maybe you can do something with this and make it maybe useful. So the idea is ultimately we can get to an editor where you can experience most of the Visual Studio environment and functionality that's actually the most useful, like being able to actually write code quite quickly and prompted, especially for new users to Umbraco. So I'm working on an IntelliSense plugin, which is going to be JavaScript based, and that's the main crux of my work around the app code editor, is being able to actually load up things like .NET libraries, some of the namespaces, and have some of that IntelliSense fed through in what is going to probably be quite large JavaScript library. So, but at the moment that is very, very, very much a work in progress, and there is no planned release date as yet. One of the other pieces of magic that I discovered recently was a compiler, a C# compiler written in C#, the technique known as bootstrapping. And something that the app code editor is going to have is if you actually edit the app code and your code isn't quite correct, it will actually kill your whole site. So it's always good to test it in staging first. Make sure nothing breaks before you show it to the client. And to be able to actually save what may be effectively bad code without the site killing itself and just keeling over and going, I'm not even going to load the editor screen anymore. There's going to be a pre-compiler hopefully put in there as well, again using some of the fancy reflection stuff, to make sure that anything you do write in the app code editor is actually going to work when you save it. And if it's not going to work, then it's going to be marked as, this can't be loaded.